Aria's hands tremble as she stands in Victor Castellano's private study, surrounded by armed men whose faces show no mercy. The tattoo on his forearm, a phoenix rising from flames with intricate Celtic knots, is identical to the one her mother has hidden beneath her sleeve for 25 years. The same tattoo her mother would trace with tears in her eyes, whispering about a love that died before Aria was born. "Say that again." Victor's voice cuts through the silence like a blade. His grey eyes, usually cold as winter steel, now burn with something she can't name. "About your mother's tattoo." The words catch in Aria's throat. She came here tonight to serve drinks at his exclusive party, not to unravel secrets that might destroy everything she thought she knew about her life. But she can't unsee it, can't unknow what the matching ink might mean. "I shouldn't have said anything," she whispers, backing toward the door. Victor rises from his chair with predatory grace, and every man in the room tenses. "You're not leaving this room until you tell me everything about your mother." What secret could connect a struggling waitress's mother to the most dangerous man in the city? And why does Victor look like he's seen a ghost? Keep watching to discover the truth that's been hidden for decades. 3 hours earlier, Aria Hayes had been running late for the biggest catering job of her career. The exclusive event at the Castellano estate wasn't just another gig. The pay for one night would cover her mother's medication for 2 months. At 25, she'd gotten used to juggling 3 jobs to keep them afloat. But this opportunity felt different. Dangerous maybe, but necessary. "Girl, you sure about this?" her best friend Maya had asked, while helping her into the crisp white server's uniform. "Everyone knows Victor Castellano's parties. People go in, but some don't come out the same." Aria had laughed it off, securing her natural curls into an elegant low bun that showed off her graceful neck. "It's just serving drinks, Maya. I'll be invisible. Rich people never really see the help anyway." How wrong she'd been. The Castellano mansion rose from the Chicago skyline like a fortress of glass and steel. Security stopped her car 3 times before she even reached the service entrance. By the time Aria joined the other servers in the staging area, her heart hammered against her ribs. "Remember," the head caterer whispered sharply, eyes down, mouth shut. "Mr. Castellano values discretion above all else. You see nothing, you hear nothing, you say nothing, understand?" 20 servers nodded in unison. The party itself was unlike anything Aria had imagined. Men in suits that cost more than her annual rent filled the grand ballroom, their conversations conducted in low, careful tones. Everyone moved with purpose, with awareness. She recognized faces from the news, businessmen, politicians, people who shaped the city from the shadows. And then there was Victor Castellano himself. Aria had seen photos, of course. Everyone in Chicago knew the face of the man who controlled half the city's underground operations. But pictures hadn't captured the raw magnetism of his presence. He stood near the floor-to-ceiling windows, a glass of whiskey in hand, surveying his domain like a king observing his kingdom. Tall and powerfully built, with dark hair touched with silver at the temples, he wore authority like a second skin. She'd been careful all night to avoid direct contact, served drinks to his guests, refilled champagne flutes, cleared empty plates. Invisible, just as she'd planned. Until Victor Castellano reached for a glass from her tray, and his sleeve rode up. The tattoo stopped her heart, a phoenix rising from flames, surrounded by Celtic knots in a pattern she'd memorized from childhood. The exact same design her mother had on her left forearm. The tattoo she'd covered religiously, the one she'd never explained despite Aria's countless questions. Aria's sharp intake of breath made Victor's eyes snap to her face. For a moment, the noise of the party faded. His grey eyes narrowed, studying her with an intensity that felt like being X-rayed. "Something wrong?" His voice was deeper than she expected, rough velvet over steel. No, sir," she stammered, lowering her gaze. "I apologize." But she'd hesitated a second too long, looked at his tattoo a moment too intensely. Victor's hand shot out, gripping her wrist, not painfully but firmly enough to keep her in place. "What's your name?" "Aria. Aria Hayes." Her pulse thundered beneath his fingers. "Hayes," he repeated slowly, as if testing the name for hidden meanings. Then his eyes traveled back to the tray in her hands. to the way she couldn't stop staring at his forearm. "You recognize this tattoo?" It wasn't a question. Arya's professional mask crumbled. "My mother. She has the same one." The glass in Victor's other hand stopped halfway to his lips. Around them, conversations continued, but Arya felt the shift in the air. Several of Victor's men had noticed their boss's sudden interest in a server. "Your mother," Victor repeated, his voice dangerously soft. "What's her name?" "Sir, I really should get back to her name." Steel wrapped in silk. "Diana. Diana Hayes." The name fell from Arya's lips like a confession. Whatever Victor Castellano had expected to hear, it wasn't that. His face went absolutely white. The glass slipped from his fingers, shattering against the marble floor. The entire ballroom went silent. "Everyone out," Victor commanded, his voice cutting through the shocked stillness. "Now." "Boss, what?" one of his lieutenants began. "Out!" The roar made Arya flinch. Within 2 minutes, the ballroom cleared. Servers, guests, everyone vanished like smoke, leaving Arya alone with Victor Castellano and 4 of his most trusted men. She'd never felt more exposed, more vulnerable, standing in her server's uniform while the most powerful criminal in Chicago stared at her like she was a ghost made flesh. "Victor." One of his men, older, with salt and pepper hair and calculating eyes, stepped forward. "What's going on?" But Victor ignored him. His attention remained fixed on Arya with laser focus. "How old are you?" 25. Something flickered across his face. Pain, maybe, or recognition. "When's your birthday?" "September 12th. Sir, I don't understand what—" "Diana Hayes," Victor interrupted, his voice rough with emotion she couldn't identify. Brown skin, natural hair, scar on her left shoulder from a burn. Laugh that sounds like music. Worked as a nurse 26 years ago. Arya's blood turned to ice. "How do you know my mother?" Victor turned away, running a hand through his hair in a gesture that looked utterly unlike the controlled man she'd observed all evening. When he faced her again, his expression had transformed into something raw and unguarded. "Because 26 years ago I loved her more than life itself," he said quietly. "And I thought she was dead." Wait, Victor thought Arya's mother was dead. What happened 26 years ago? And why did Diana disappear? The answers will shock you. Keep watching. The revelation hung in the air like smoke after gunfire. Arya's mind raced, trying to reconcile the cold, dangerous man before her with the shadowy figure from her mother's past. The one Diana had never named, never spoken about except in fragments and tears. "That's impossible," Arya whispered. "My mother never mentioned you. She always said my father died before I was born." Victor's jaw clenched. "She told you your father was dead." "She said he was killed, that she barely escaped with her life." Arya's voice strengthened with anger now, pushing past her fear. "She spent 25 years hiding, looking over her shoulder, working 3 jobs to keep us safe. If you loved her so much, where were you?" "I was told she died in the fire." Victor's words came out harsh, clipped. "The warehouse explosion that killed 15 people. They found remains, her dental records matched. I buried an empty casket, Arya. I mourned her for years." "What fire? What are you talking about?" Victor gestured to his lieutenant. "Marco, bring me the file. The warehouse incident, 1999. While Marco left the room, Victor poured himself another drink with hands that weren't quite steady. Arya noticed details she'd missed before. The fine lines around his eyes that spoke of sleepless nights, the white scar cutting through his left eyebrow, the way he carried himself like a man who'd learned to armor his heart. "Your mother and I met at St. Catherine's Hospital," Victor began, his voice distant with memory. "I'd been shot, gang dispute, nothing that matters now. Diana was my nurse. She was 22, fresh out of nursing school, and so damn beautiful she made my heart stop." Despite everything, Arya found herself leaning in. Her mother never spoke about this time, never explained the haunted look she got when old love songs played on the radio. "We fell in love," Victor continued. "Fast and hard and completely. I knew what I was, knew the life I led would put her in danger. I tried to stay away." His laugh was bitter. That lasted all of 2 weeks. Diana said she didn't care about the danger. Said she loved me anyway. Marco returned with a worn file folder. Victor spread photographs across the table. Crime scene images of a burned-out warehouse, forensic reports, newspaper clippings with headlines about gang violence and innocent casualties. My enemies found out about Diana, Victor said flatly. Rival family trying to take my territory. They grabbed her from the hospital parking lot. Left me a message saying if I wanted her back, I'd have to trade myself. Aria's heart clenched. This matched the fragments her mother had whispered during nightmares. The darkness, the fear, the feeling of being trapped. I went to make the trade, Victor continued, but when I arrived, the warehouse was already burning. Explosion took out the whole building. They found 6 bodies inside, burned beyond recognition. The forensic team used dental records to identify the victims. He tapped one of the reports. Diana's records matched one of the bodies. But it wasn't her, Aria said softly. No. Victor's grey eyes met hers, and she saw the abyss of grief he'd carried. It wasn't her. Someone faked those records. Someone helped her disappear so completely that even I, with all my resources, all my connections, never found a trace. The implications crashed over Aria like a wave. Her entire life had been built on a lie. Her mother hadn't been running from Victor's enemies. She'd been running from Victor himself. Or at least, that's what Diana must have believed. Why would she run from you? Aria asked. If you loved each other? Victor was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. The night she was taken, I made a choice. I called in every favor, activated every soldier in my organization. I was ready to burn down half of Chicago to get her back. My uncle, the previous head of our family, he told me I was being reckless. That one woman wasn't worth starting a war. What did you do? I told him Diana was worth 1,000 wars. Victor's smile was sharp and painful. I chose her over everything. My position, my family's approval, my own safety. But maybe. He paused, and Aria saw the doubt that had clearly haunted him for decades. Maybe she saw what I became that night, the violence I was capable of, the darkness I unleashed trying to save her. Maybe she saw the monster and decided she needed to disappear from that too. Aria thought of her mother, gentle Diana, who flinched at loud noises, who checked the locks 3 times every night, who'd raised her daughter with fierce love and fiercer protectiveness. She thought of the tattoo her mother covered but never removed, of the way Diana's eyes went distant every September, of the old jewelry box hidden in the closet with a single dried rose inside. She kept the tattoo, Aria said quietly. All these years, she kept it. She could have had it removed, covered up, but she never did. Victor's expression cracked just for a moment, revealing the man beneath the armor. The Phoenix, he said roughly. We got them together. She said it represented rising from our pasts, her from poverty, me from violence. We were going to build something new together. She never married, Aria added. Never dated. I used to ask her why, and she'd just say that some loves come once in a lifetime. Diana is alive. Victor spoke the words like a prayer and a curse combined. After all these years, she's alive. Where is she, Aria? The question hung between them, loaded, dangerous, full of possibility and threat. Aria straightened her spine, meeting Victor's intense gaze with newfound courage. She's safe. And before I tell you anything else, I need to understand something. Are you going to hurt her? Hurt her? Victor looked stunned. I spent 26 years grieving her. I never married, never moved on, never stopped seeing her face in my dreams. Diana was the only woman I ever loved. Why would I hurt her? Because she ran from you, Aria challenged. Because she let you think she was dead. Because she kept your daughter from you. The last words dropped like a bomb. Victor went absolutely still. What did you say? Aria's hands trembled, but she forced herself to continue. I was born September 12th, 1999, 9 months after the warehouse fire. My mother always told me my father died before I was born. But the timeline... She swallowed hard. The timeline matches, doesn't it? Victor sank into his chair, as if his legs could no longer support him. His face cycled through shock, realization, wonder and anguish in rapid succession. "You're mine," he breathed. "Diana was pregnant. She was carrying my child, and she let me believe both of you were dead." "She thought she was protecting me," Arya said, though she wasn't sure if she was defending her mother or explaining for her own benefit. "From your world, from the danger. She didn't give me a choice." Victor's voice was raw. 25 years, Arya. I missed 25 years of your life. First steps, first words, first day of school, everything. The pain in his voice was so real, so human, that Arya felt her defenses crumbling. This wasn't the cold Mafia boss she'd expected. This was a man who'd lost everything, and was only now discovering what had been taken from him. "I need to see her," Victor said urgently, standing again. "I need to talk to Diana. Where is she? I can't just... Please." The words seemed to cost him. "I won't hurt her, I won't force anything. But I've spent over 2 decades mourning a ghost. I need to see her. I need to understand why she ran. I need..." His voice broke. "I need to tell her I'm sorry for not saving her soon enough." Arya's phone buzzed in her pocket. A text from her mother. "Hope the job is going well, baby. Don't forget to take your tips. Love you." Looking at that simple message, Arya made a decision that would change everything. "She's at our apartment," Arya said quietly. "But we do this my way. I call her first, prepare her. You don't show up with guns and soldiers. You come alone and you give her the choice to see you or not. Can you do that?" Victor nodded slowly. "Whatever she needs. Whatever you both need. And one more thing," Arya added, channeling every ounce of strength she'd inherited from her mother. "If you break her heart again, if you bring danger to our door or make her regret staying alive, I don't care how powerful you are, I will make you regret it." For the first time that night, Victor smiled, a real smile that transformed his harsh features into something almost gentle. "You have your mother's fire," he said softly, "and apparently mine too. I wouldn't expect anything less from my daughter. Can you imagine finding out the most dangerous man in the city is your father? And wait until Diana sees Victor after 26 years. The reunion will leave you speechless. Keep watching." The drive to Arya's apartment felt surreal. She sat in the back of Victor's armored SUV, because apparently her father traveled nowhere without security, trying to process the fact that she'd used the word father in her thoughts. Victor had kept his promise about coming alone, but alone meant dismissing his bodyguards to the street level while he came upstairs with just Marco, who waited in the building lobby. Arya had called her mother during the drive, keeping her voice carefully neutral. "Mom, something happened tonight, something important. I need you to sit down." "Baby, what's wrong? Are you hurt?" Diana's instant panic reminded Arya of a lifetime of her mother's protective instincts. "I'm fine, but I'm bringing someone home, someone you need to see." Arya took a breath. "Victor Castellano is alive, Mom, and he knows about me." The silence on the other end lasted so long, Arya thought the call had dropped. Then came a sound that broke her heart, her mother's sob, raw and full of 26 years of suppressed grief. "I thought I had more time," Diana whispered. "I thought I could protect you longer. Mom, he thought you were dead. Both of us dead. He's been grieving for over 2 decades. Another sob. "I know, God help me, Arya, I know." Now, standing outside their modest apartment door, Arya watched Victor transform. The powerful Mafia boss had given way to a nervous man who'd checked his appearance in every reflective surface during the elevator ride. He'd rolled down his sleeves to cover the tattoo, then rolled them back up, fixed his hair 3 times. Arya might have found it endearing if her own heart wasn't hammering with anxiety. "She might not want to see me," Victor said quietly. "If she asks me to leave, then you leave," Arya confirmed. "No arguments, no force." He nodded, but his jaw was tight with tension. Arya unlocked the door. Their apartment was small, a 1-bedroom in a working-class neighborhood. Nothing like Victor's mansion. But it was clean, filled with plants Diana lovingly tended and decorated with photos chronicling Arya's entire life. Victor's eyes went immediately to those photos, drinking in every image of the daughter he'd never known. Diana stood in the living room and Arya's breath caught. Her mother had changed into a simple blue dress, the one she saved for important occasions. Her natural hair was swept back, showing the graceful lines of her face, and on her left forearm, visible for the first time in Aria's memory, was the phoenix tattoo. She looked terrified and heartbroken and somehow impossibly hopeful. "Victor," Diana breathed. "Diana." His voice cracked on her name. They stood frozen, separated by 20 feet and 26 years of pain. Aria felt like an intruder in this moment, but she couldn't leave, needed to see this through. "You're alive," Victor said, moving forward slowly, as if approaching a frightened bird. "All this time you've been alive. I'm so sorry." Tears streamed down Diana's face. "I'm so sorry, Victor. I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought, why?" The single word held universes of pain. "Why did you let me believe you were dead? Why did you take my daughter and disappear?" Diana's composure shattered. She sank onto the couch, covering her face with her hands. Aria moved to her mother's side instinctively, but Diana gestured for her to stay back. "After the explosion," Diana began, her voice muffled, "I woke up in a basement 2 states away. A man, I never learned his real name, told me he'd pulled me from the warehouse before it blew. Said he was a federal agent who'd been monitoring your organization. He said you'd been arrested, that the FBI had enough evidence to put you away for life." Victor's expression went cold. "That's not what happened." "I know that now," Diana said, looking up with red-rimmed eyes. "But then, I was terrified, Victor. I'd just survived being kidnapped and nearly killed. I was pregnant. And this agent told me that if I went back, your enemies would use me and our baby to destroy you. He said the only way to keep everyone safe was for me to disappear completely. You believed him. It wasn't quite an accusation, but close." "I was 22 years old, pregnant and traumatized." Diana's voice rose. "He showed me photos of other families torn apart by gang wars, children caught in crossfire, women used as bargaining chips. He said if I truly loved you, I'd give you a chance at a clean start. No liabilities, no weaknesses for enemies to exploit." "You were never a liability," Victor said roughly. "You were everything." "I was scared," Diana whispered. "Scared of losing you, scared of losing our baby, scared of the violence I'd seen. That night, you mobilized your entire organization, Victor. I heard the stories afterward. The people who died, the destruction, the way you tore through the city looking for me. I saw what you were capable of when pushed, and I thought—" She swallowed hard. "I thought our baby deserved a chance at a normal life." Aria felt the words like a physical blow. Her entire childhood, the moves between cities, her mother's constant vigilance, the poverty they'd endured, had been about giving her safety and normalcy. Diana had sacrificed everything, including her own happiness, for that goal. "Did I have a normal life?" Aria asked quietly, drawing both parents' attention. "We moved 6 times before I was 10. You worked yourself to exhaustion at jobs that barely paid rent. I watched you cry yourself to sleep more nights than I can count. You were so busy protecting me from a danger that wasn't coming that you never let yourself heal. Baby, Diana started. "And you," Aria turned to Victor, "spent 26 years grieving instead of living, building an empire but never a family. You were so buried in your pain that you didn't question the evidence, didn't dig deeper, didn't consider that someone might have wanted you both to suffer." The silence that followed was heavy with realization. "Someone played us," Victor said slowly, his tactical mind engaging. "Someone wanted Diana gone and wanted me destroyed by grief. Someone who benefited from both." "Your uncle," Diana said suddenly. "The one who didn't want you to start a war over me. What happened to him?" Victor's eyes widened. "He took over as head of the family after I stepped back, said I was too compromised by grief to lead effectively. I let him because—" He stopped, understanding washing over his features. "Because I didn't care anymore. Without you, it all felt meaningless." "And he would have had the connections to fake dental records," Diana added, her nurse's mind working through the logistics. "Access to morgues, coroners on payroll. His men probably pulled you from the warehouse," Victor continued. "Not a federal agent. Someone working for him, who convinced you that your death and your disappearance would protect everyone. Arya watched her parents piece together the conspiracy that had stolen their lives, the anger, the grief, the wasted years, all because one man had wanted power and had been willing to destroy his own nephew's happiness to get it. "He's dead," Victor said flatly. "Heart attack, 5 years ago. Died peacefully in his sleep, surrounded by wealth and respect." "Good," Diana said with surprising venom, "because if he were still alive, I'd kill him myself." The fierce declaration hung in the air, and then, impossibly, Victor laughed. A real laugh that seemed to surprise him as much as it did them. "That's the Diana I remember. All gentleness and compassion until someone threatens her family. Then she becomes a warrior." Diana's lips twitched despite her tears. "I haven't changed as much as you might think." Victor moved closer, kneeling in front of the couch so he was at eye level with Diana. "I don't want to waste another day," he said quietly. "I lost 26 years with you, with our daughter. I can't get that time back, but if you'll let me, I want to be part of your lives now, however you'll have me, whatever role you're comfortable with. I can't lose you again. Either of you." Diana reached out with trembling fingers, touching Victor's face like she needed to confirm he was real. "I never stopped loving you," she whispered. "I told myself I was over it, that I'd moved on, but I never stopped. I've been in love with a ghost for 26 years. "I'm not a ghost," Victor said, covering her hand with his. "I'm right here, and I'm not going anywhere." Arya watched her parents lean into each other, foreheads touching, tears mixing as they held on like lifelines. She should have felt intrusive, but instead she felt something else. Hope. For the first time in her life, the fractured pieces of her family were beginning to align. Then Victor's phone buzzed with an urgent alert. He ignored it the first time, but when it buzzed again immediately, his expression hardened. "What is it?" Diana asked, reading his change in demeanor instantly. Victor checked the message and his face went cold. "Someone just fired shots into my estate, and they left a message spray-painted on the gate. The past rises. Castellano blood for Castellano lies." Arya's stomach dropped. "What does that mean?" "It means," Victor said grimly, pulling out his phone to make calls, "that someone knows Diana is alive, and they're not happy about it. Just when this family is reunited, someone threatens everything. Who knows about Diana? And what do they want? The final chapter will have you on the edge of your seat. Don't stop now." Within 15 minutes, Victor had transformed their modest apartment into a command center. Marco and 4 other trusted soldiers secured the building's perimeter while Victor worked the phones. His voice clipped and authoritative as he gathered intelligence. Diana packed essential items with the practiced efficiency of someone who'd fled danger before. And Arya tried to process that her reunion with her father had immediately thrown them into the kind of danger her mother had spent a lifetime avoiding. "It's Lorenzo," Marco reported, entering the apartment with his weapon holstered but clearly ready. "Lorenzo Castellano just got released from prison yesterday. No one thought to flag it because he's been inside for 20 years. Victor's jaw clenched. "My cousin. He was one of the ones pushing my uncle to take control after Diana's death. I testified against him in a racketeering case." "He would have been 19 when the warehouse fire happened," Diana said, her voice steady despite the fear Arya could see in her eyes. "Old enough to be involved in the conspiracy. Old enough to want revenge for his father's death," Victor corrected. "My uncle was Lorenzo's father. When he died, Lorenzo blamed me for not being there, for abandoning the family." Arya's mind raced. "So he knows about Mom, about me." "Prison intelligence network is extensive," Marco said grimly. If Lorenzo had eyes on the boss, he would have seen Arya at the party, would have noticed the boss's reaction. "And now he wants to finish what was started 26 years ago," Victor concluded. "Destroy my family to punish me." Diana moved to Arya instinctively, putting herself between her daughter and potential danger, just as she'd done for 25 years. But this time, Victor moved too, positioning himself to shield them both. "We have options," Victor said, his tactical mind clearly working through scenarios. "I can get you both to a safe house across the country within hours. New identities, protection, everything you need. You disappear again, but this time with my resources to keep you truly safe. No, Diana's voice was firm. I spent 26 years running, Victor. I won't do it again. I won't let Arya grow up the way I did, always looking over my shoulder, never building real connections, living half a life. Then we end this, Victor said simply. I call Lorenzo, arrange a meeting, settle this once and for all. You mean you'll kill him? Arya said flatly. Victor didn't deny it. I'll do whatever is necessary to protect you both. There has to be another way, Arya insisted. Some option that doesn't involve more death. Marco snorted. Miss Hayes, with all respect, your father's world doesn't work that way. Lorenzo came at us. He drew blood. The only language he understands is strength. But Arya had inherited her mother's compassionate heart and, apparently, her father's strategic mind. An idea was forming, risky, probably crazy, but possible. What if, she said slowly, we give Lorenzo what he actually wants? 3 pairs of eyes turned to her. He doesn't just want us dead, Arya continued, thinking it through. If he did, he would have ambushed us, hired assassins, made it quick. But he announced himself, left a message. He wants Victor to suffer the way he suffered. So, Marco asked, clearly not following. So we use that? Arya looked at her father. You said your uncle took over because you were too grief-stricken to lead. That Lorenzo blames you for abandoning the family. What if that's what this is really about? Not revenge, resentment. He lost his father and gained a cousin who stopped caring about the family business. Victor shook his head. Arya, I understand what you're trying to do, but Lorenzo is dangerous. Giving him an audience won't change. I'm not suggesting you give him an audience, Arya interrupted. I'm suggesting you give him something more valuable. The truth about what his father did. The conspiracy that destroyed your life and his father's soul. Make him see that the enemy wasn't you. It was the lies his father built. That's a significant gamble, Diana said quietly, but Arya could see the hope in her mother's eyes. But it might work. Lorenzo was just a teenager when this started. If his father lied to him too, manipulated him into carrying this grudge, we could reach the boy who got caught in his father's schemes. Victor finished, understanding dawning. Instead of killing the man who spent 20 years in prison nursing hatred. Marco looked skeptical. Boss, this assumes Lorenzo can be reasoned with, that he'll care about truth over revenge. It's worth trying, Victor said, and Arya saw the man her mother had fallen in love with, someone willing to seek peace before defaulting to violence. Marco, arrange a meeting. Neutral location, just me and Lorenzo, but have backup positioned within striking distance. If this goes wrong... We'll be ready, Marco confirmed. The next few hours passed in tense preparation. Victor made calls, arranged the meeting for dawn at an abandoned pier, neutral ground that neither side controlled. Diana sat with Arya, holding her hand, both of them terrified and trying not to show it. You don't have to do this, Diana said to Victor as he prepared to leave. We can run, we're good at running. Victor cupped her face gently. I'm done running, done letting fear dictate our lives. 26 years ago I couldn't save you, but I can save us now, save our family, our future, our chance at happiness. I won't lose that again. Then I'm coming with you, Diana said firmly. Absolutely not. Victor. Diana's voice was steel wrapped in silk. He destroyed my life too. Took my daughter's father, forced me into hiding, made me live in fear. I deserve to face him. Mum, Arya started. I'm coming too, she said, cutting off the inevitable protest. This is my family, my life. I'm not sitting on the sidelines. Victor looked between his 2 fierce women, both ready to fight, neither willing to be protected at the cost of their agency. His expression softened into something like wonder and resignation. You're both completely insane, he said, and I love you for it, but we do this smart. You stay in the car with Marco, armored and protected. If shooting starts, you drive away immediately. Agreed? Agreed, Diana and Arya said in unison. The pier at dawn was cold and misty, the kind of atmospheric setting that seemed made for confrontations. Victor stood alone at the end of the dock, his coat billowing in the lake breeze. 50 feet back, Arya and Diana sat in the armored SUV with Marco behind the wheel, the engine running. Lorenzo Castellano appeared from the mist like a ghost. Prison had hardened him. His face was gaunt, his eyes cold, his movements tightly controlled. He carried a gun openly, not bothering to conceal it. "Cousin," Lorenzo said, the word dripping with venom, "did you bring your new family to watch you die?" "I brought them to witness the truth," Victor replied calmly. "About what your father did, about the conspiracy that destroyed both our lives. My father was a great man who you betrayed." "Your father was a murderer who orchestrated the fake death of the woman I loved to steal control of our family," Victor interrupted. "And I can prove it." For the next 20 minutes, Victor laid out everything. The faked dental records, the federal agent who was actually one of his uncle's men, the way Lorenzo's father had manipulated Victor's grief to seize power. He showed phone records, testimonies from people his investigators had found over the years, evidence that painted a picture of calculated betrayal. From the SUV, Aria watched Lorenzo's expressions cycle through disbelief, anger, confusion, and finally, devastatingly, recognition. He'd known something was wrong, had probably suspected for years, but had been too loyal to his father's memory to admit it. "He used you too," Victor said quietly. "Filled your head with lies about me, turned you into a weapon aimed at the wrong target. Your father didn't just destroy my family, Lorenzo. He destroyed yours." "So what?" Lorenzo's voice cracked. "You want me to apologize? Shake hands and pretend 20 years in prison didn't happen?" "No," Victor said. "I want you to stop carrying hatred that was never yours to begin with. I want you to have a choice, the choice your father never gave either of us. Walk away, Lorenzo. Start over. Or—" He paused, his hand moving to his concealed weapon. "We end this here, and another generation of Castellanos dies for sins that aren't their own." The gun in Lorenzo's hand trembled. Aria held her breath, watching a man at a crossroads, revenge or redemption, hatred or healing. Then Lorenzo lowered his weapon. "I'm tired," he said, and he sounded it, exhausted down to his bones. "I'm so damn tired of being angry, of living in my father's shadow, of letting his choices define my life." "Then don't," Victor said simply. "Make a different choice." Lorenzo looked past Victor to the SUV, where Diana and Aria waited. "That's them? Your woman and your daughter?" "That's my family," Victor confirmed. Something shifted in Lorenzo's expression. "My father took that from you. Took it from all of you." He holstered his gun. "I won't make that mistake. I won't become him." The tension broke like a snapped wire. Lorenzo turned and walked away, disappearing back into the mist. Victor stood alone for a moment, then made his way back to the SUV. When he opened the door, Diana launched herself at him, checking for injuries, making sure he was truly unharmed. Aria felt tears streaming down her face, relief and disbelief mixing into something like hope. "It's over," Victor said, pulling them both close. "It's finally over." Marco cleared his throat. "Boss, we should still get somewhere secure. Just because Lorenzo walked away doesn't mean—" "I know," Victor said, "but for now, just for this moment, let me hold my family." And in that cold dawn on an abandoned pier in Chicago, a family that had been fractured for 26 years finally came together. Can you believe Lorenzo actually walked away? And now Victor, Diana, and Aria finally have their chance at being a family. But what does that look like after so much time apart? The epilogue will show you. 6 months later, Aria stood in the kitchen of her mother's new house. Not a mansion like Victor's estate, but a beautiful craftsman home in a safe neighborhood with actual neighbors and a garden Diana was already filling with flowers. The tattoo on Aria's forearm was still fresh, the phoenix design slightly modified from her parents' matching ink, but clearly part of the same family of symbols. "You didn't have to get it," Diana said, though her eyes were bright with emotion. "I wanted to," Aria replied, touching the healing skin gently. "We all rose from something, right? Might as well have the reminder." The doorbell rang, and Aria opened it to find Victor carrying bags of groceries. He'd developed a habit of showing up for Sunday dinners, claiming he'd forgotten what home-cooked meals tasted like. Nobody believed him, but nobody called him on it either. "Your mother texted me," Victor said by way of greeting, setting the bags on the counter. "Said you have news?" Arya exchanged a glance with Diana, who smiled encouragingly. "I got accepted," she announced. "Full scholarship to medical school, following in Mom's footsteps." Victor's face transformed with pride. "Arya, that's incredible. We should celebrate. I'll make reservations at—" "Dad," Arya interrupted, using the title that still felt new but increasingly natural. "We're celebrating here, with Mom's cooking and maybe a decent bottle of wine. Just us." "Just us," Victor repeated softly, as if testing the phrase. Then that gentle smile that Diana had fallen in love with decades ago. "There's nowhere else I'd rather be." As the afternoon shifted into evening, Arya watched her parents move around each other in the kitchen with increasing ease, passing ingredients, sharing private smiles, occasionally touching in ways that spoke of rediscovered intimacy. They were dating, technically, taking things slow after so much time apart, but Arya could see the endgame written in every glance, every gentle touch. Her phone buzzed with a text from Maya. "Still can't believe your dad is that Victor Castellano. Your life is literally a movie." Arya smiled and typed back, "More like a second chance for all of us." Because that's what this was, not a fairy tale ending, but a hard-won opportunity to rebuild what had been stolen. Victor still ran his organization, though with Diana's influence he'd been slowly shifting toward legitimate businesses. Diana had returned to nursing part-time, finding joy again in work she'd loved. And Arya. Arya was learning to balance her two worlds, the daughter of both a nurse and a Mafia boss, belonging fully to both. "What are you thinking about?" Diana asked, catching Arya's distant expression. "Just that we're lucky," Arya said honestly. "It took 26 years and a random tattoo sighting, but we found our way back to each other." Victor raised his wine glass. "To random tattoo sightings, to impossible chances, to the family we lost and found again. To rising from the ashes," Diana added, touching her phoenix tattoo. "To second chances," Arya finished. They clinked glasses as the sun set over Chicago, three people who'd been broken apart by lies and brought together by truth. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. Nothing about their situation was simple or conventional. But they had something that had survived decades of separation, grief and loss. They had each other. And this time, nothing would tear them apart.